Is a noodle dish. It's a side dish. It's served instead of potatoes or dumplings or rice. It's called spätzle, and there's different varieties of it. Spätzle normally is a long noodle. The one I'm making is called pfle. It's a short, round, little drop noodle. The dough is the same as you would make pasta with. It's just more runny. It's eggs, flour, maybe a little bit of water, maybe a little bit of salt, maybe not. 1 egg per 100 grams of flour, or 125 grams. It depends on, you might not like as many eggs. You can always, if the dough is too solid and doesn't run, then you can always add water, or you can add milk.
1 egg for how much flour?
Flour, eggs, maybe water, maybe milk if you need it because it's runny, salt and nutmeg.
German muslin?
Yes.
Add 1 egg. Where's my garbage can? The old tradition says, beat it with a wooden spoon until it forms bubbles. Then you use salt, whatever salt you want, and some nutmeg. Not a lot, you just want a hint of nutmeg, you don't want an overwhelming taste of nutmeg. So, pinch per 100 grams. It's much too dry. Yeah. Too much milk, this is not what we want either.
Add flour to get the right consistency and a little bit at a time.
If it's too dry, you add milk. If it's too wet, you add flour. And just a little bit at a time until you get the consistency that you want. Beat it up a little bit. Have the batter, it has about the right consistency. What is it, brownie batter? And kind of gluey. The beating is to activate the gluten. And then end up with this. Something...
How long does it have to rest?
I would say 20 minutes, and you don't need to put it in the fridge. Okay, this is the right let me stir this one. It's been sitting around a little bit. This is the right consistency. It's a very stretchy dough. Batter. Tool to make the spätzle is a spätzle Hobel. Hobel is the German word for a plane, like a wood plane. For the movement that it does, back and forth. This one I got from an old Austrian lady, and she got it from her mother. It's vintage 1930. The lady is
1930.
Yeah, the lady is a little bit older. For us, a little bit older.
Can you still get one of them?
Yeah, you can buy them at Walmart. I can show you.
Really?
Yeah. This thing, yeah, sits on the. We want the water boiling, a rolling boil. We now add a rolling boil. We put the Hobel on the edge. And we fill the hopper. Maybe. We might fill the hopper. We might not fill the hopper. This is the part where my husband usually leaves.
Yeah.
This is where you
Or
need your
leaves.
muscles. You need a wooden spoon.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Okay, it's beginning. If you.
Oh, wow. Rich one.
I'm gonna set them down. And they sink to the bottom of the pot. After about 2 minutes, they come up. And just move back and forth. I'm going to lift this thing up here in a second. Some of them are already floating to the top. You see them? Some of them are sitting, don't clump. And then we just sit on. Keep going. They drop and the movement cuts them off. Yes, you got options. Serve them as a side dish with, like you would potatoes, rice, noodles, whatever you have. Or you can brown them in butter with onions, with cheese, and then it's called Käsespätzle. Cheese spätzle, spätzle with cheese. And not much more shallow than this because then it clumped, the top that are already cooked will clump to the ones on the bottom. And now the consistency is like that of a little dumpling noodle. They're hard, they're firm, they're not watery anymore. They fall out on the bottom. And every time the hopper moves, it cuts them off. And they sink to the bottom. If you can see it right now, they're not done. They're sitting on the bottom. If you use them right away, you have two options. You can just put them in here and they're not clumping. Or you can add a little bit of butter. You want to use them tomorrow, you have to put them in cold water and we call it abschrecken, kind of temper it so that they stop and the starches wash off, then they don't clump together. And then you put them in a bowl. If you're not using them today, or you want to freeze them, then once they come out, once they go into the bowl, you put them under cold water, you wash the starches off, you cool them down, and you set them aside for use. Then the next day you can either freeze them, or you keep them in the fridge till the next day, and then you warm them up, fry them up in a little bit of butter.
Can you keep this dough?
It only gets gluier.